To be honest with you, I'm pretty shy.
Meanie! Baldy!
Shonen has been a genre of anime that is known for its great stories and action. However, I've said before, a lot of shonens tend to get repetitive after seeing so many of them. A lot of them tend to blend together and it creates a big mash in my head. But there was one shonen that pulled me in and bear hugged me until I finished the entire show. And guess what? Apparently, there's still more content! I still want more of this show. Like, seriously guys, animate the rest of the manga or I'll cry. Hunter x Hunter has a collection of great arcs from the Hunter exam, York New City, Greed Island, and the arc I'm going to be covering today, the Chimera Ant arc.
There, all cleaned up.
Damn, boy, he's thick!
Arguably one of the best shonen anime arcs. I wouldn't even be making anybody mad by saying that, because the arc is so upheld by the anime community with such high praise, tackling dark themes and contrasts never before seen in the show, and exploring sides of characters that we didn't even know existed. When you think of Gon, you immediately think of this sweet, charismatic kid, but we get a real deep look into his dark side in this arc.
I really was just about to kill you!
The characters really carry this show, each one being extremely charismatic and full of life, as well as bringing something interesting to the table each time. In each arc, we are introduced to a new cast of characters, and in the Chimera Ant arc, we are introduced to some of the best ones. Now, I wanted to talk about the characters introduced in this arc first, and then cover the older ones as we go on. First is the obvious, Kite. Kite is the first person we meet as we step foot into the Chimera Ant arc, transitioning almost immediately after the end of the Greed Island arc. Kite is the most important character for this part of the show. If Gon hadn't developed a meaningful relationship with him, or even met him at all for that matter, then we wouldn't have had Gon's extreme rage scene, or even Gon participating in the event at all. Kite wasn't in the show for very long, but in the time that we had him, I quickly fell in love with the character. I enjoyed his monotone yet charming mannerisms, his awesome ability, as well as his relationship with Gon. I think that Kite played such a huge impact in Gon's life because Kite was the closest thing Gon had to his father, and when that was stripped away from him by Pito, it crushed his soul, to the point that he would make a vow to use all of his power he would ever have just to take down Pito. If that doesn't tell you how much of an impact Kite had on Gon's character development, then I really don't know what will. We are also introduced to the characters of Moral and Nove. I really like the character of Moral. He was funny, confident, and strong. He played really well off the other characters. Nove, however, I felt was sort of underused. He was mainly just there so that our heroes could use his nin rooms, and he honestly was a pretty cool character at first. But after he sees the aura of Poof, he breaks down and doesn't fight again for the rest of the anime. I understand that this was used as a way to really put across how truly terrifying the ants were to scare such a high-level hunter, but to me, I just would have thought it would have been a lot cooler to see him in a bit more of the action. Palma's such a great character. Palma's a woman who truly hates herself and didn't know who she truly was. She seemed to be ruled over by hate and unable to control her violent urges. However, she is tasked with infiltrating the ants' base and gathering intel. This was our opportunity to make people proud, to prove that she was of some worth, only for her to be captured and turned into an ant. After becoming an ant, she seems completely defeated, but after pushing past it, she helps out Killua and proves to herself that she is of some worth. I could go on and on talking about each character introduced in this arc, but this arc is 133 chapters long. And that's a lot of characters to go through. Gon's Dark Descent is probably the most notorious part of this arc. After Kite was killed by Pito and Gon being unable to do anything to save him, he is taken over by guilt and depression. He blames himself for what happened to Kite, and this leads to a deep internal struggle that brings us to the confrontation with Pito, where a cord is snapped inside him, and all of the rage that had been building up inside him had finally let loose, and we get to see the true side of Gon. This is also the arc where one of the most iconic anime villains is introduced, Meruem, the Ant King. Hunter x Hunter is known for its great villains, but Meruem stands out above the rest. This is because one of my favorite forms of storytelling. You guys know I love it when I can sympathize with the enemy. At first, Meruem is a pure evil being that kills even children without any clear goal on why he's doing this. Meruem meets a young girl named Komagi, and his human side of him starts to bleed out, and he becomes fond of Komagi. He begins to realize that the weak should be protected and not dominated or tormented, but as Netero mentions in their fight, Meruem is teetering between ant and human and neither side is dominant. Meruem could switch up at any time and go back to being a pure evil ant. Seeing Meruem care for Komagi and even put her life above his own makes us begin to sympathize and care for the king, making the impact of his death hit harder, and we truly don't know what he would have done if he won the fight.
Can you give me your liver, please?
Obviously, these great characters and themes would be completely pointless if the story didn't hold it all together. So overall, what is my opinion on the story of the arc? I think it was fantastic. However, I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel like it dragged in some areas. A lot of people can agree that the arc did go on for a long time, but to be honest, the payoff at the end made it all worth it. We haven't seen such dark themes and concepts from this show before, and to see it all unfold like this without ruining the rest of the show is truly remarkable. I think it's a pretty difficult thing to switch up the overall tone of your show without it feeling a little out of place, but luckily this arc fits right in with the rest of the Hunter universe. As soon as we drop into the first episode of the arc, the tonal shift is immediately shoved into our face. It's very obvious that things were going to get dark. After their adventure on Greed Island, Gon and Killua use a return card to Gon's dad, Jean. But it turns out that because Gon wasn't alone when he used the card, he was sent to Kite instead. Kite explains to them how he knew Jean, as well as explaining the Chimera ants and the threat they posed. When I was listening to the explanation of the ants, I was genuinely freaked out by their concept. The idea of a creature being able to pass on the genes of whatever it eats to its offspring truly terrified me. The Chimera ants originated from a place called the Dark Continent, which I don't really know very much about since I'm not a manga reader, but I can tell you that the Dark Continent is a place full of terrifying and deadly creatures that have terrorized people of the past. The Ant Queen that we see in the anime actually left the Dark Continent and ended up in the NGL, where it began building up its army of ants, preparing to birth the king and his royal guard. The royal guard consisted of Shayapuf, Neferpito, and Yuppie. Neferpito, being born first, went out to go test his strength, and Kite, Gon, and Killua just happened to be close enough for him to detect. Kite is actually killed by Pito, and Gon and Killua were not able to do anything to stop him. I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was bait. I mean, there was no way that they would kill Kite. He wasn't even here for that long. But what do you know? Kite was actually killed by Pito. However, later in the anime, it is revealed that Kite actually was reborn as a Chimera ant. After Kite's death, we begin to see Gon fall into darkness. At first, Gon seems to be okay. But as the episodes go on, Gon gets closer and closer to Pito, and his warped feelings begin to bleed out. When Moral asks Gon to demonstrate his strength and pretend like Moral was the one that killed Kite, Gon's rage is fully demonstrated to the audience.
Show me rock!
We also see Gon begin to distance himself from Killua, prioritizing his revenge over their friendship. All of these little things we start to notice build up to the final confrontation between Gon and Pito. Gon, filled with so much hate and rage, selfishly made a vow to himself so he could acquire all of the power he would ever have just to take down Pito, no matter the cost. He did end up taking down Pito, but at the cost of his own body. He was crippled beyond repair after this, which leads into the next arc. But that's for another video. If you guys enjoyed this little breakdown of the Chimera Ant arc, then please hit that subscribe button. Leave any feedback you may have in the comments, everything helps, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.